there's still a lot of conversations going on between Brooklyn, teams around the league. You know, two of the teams that Kevin Durant would like to play with, the Phoenix Suns, the Miami Heat, you know, they've both been in pretty consistent contact with Brooklyn, I'm told. But I think both teams individually may not have enough to do a deal with Brooklyn without being able to go out and move some pieces around in 3-player, 4-player trades. And I think for Brooklyn, and I think they're even more determined after they see the Rudy Gobert trade, the DeJounte Murray trade, the number of picks and assets moving, 5 first-round picks essentially for Rudy Gobert. What's Kevin Durant worth? And I think not just the picks, and I think Brooklyn is going to try to exhaust, 4 or 5 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps in it, but also at least an all-star level player. And certainly that you look it out and who's available, how they get those deals done. They're going to be they're generally going to be complex deals. They're going to take time putting together. But Brooklyn knows they've got time on their side now, not just the offseason, but Kevin Durant's got 4 years left on his contract. I think, Brooklyn will continue to try to talk throughout the league and get what they know has to be a monumental deal if they're going to trade Kevin Durant.
It's an unbelievable crossroads here for general manager Sean Marks. Kevin Durant, to Woj's point, stunned the NBA world July 4th, 2016 when he agreed to join the Warriors. And as we come upon July 4th this summer, we'll wait to see what KD does. Woj, thank you very much.
Ruben.
He finally did break his silence, tweeting, "The ones who were locked in that gym with me know what it is. They know what I'm about. If you haven't been in there with me,
could you end it in any better way? The Woj bomb yesterday in the 2 o'clock hour, and here we are. A decision that could transform the NBA for years to come. Kevin Durant requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Nets general manager Sean Marks is working with KD, with his business manager Rich Kleiman on some possible destinations. And we have Wendy, we have Tim, and for the first time, Jalen Rose. We haven't heard you weigh in on this at all, so let me start right there. Jay, what is your reaction to everything that's transpired?
My initial reaction is it takes courage to be happy, regardless of the relationship, whether it's family, friends, whether it's somebody you date, and whether it's somebody you in business with. So many people woke up this morning and in dysfunctional situations that they can walk away from, but they don't have the courage to. Kevin Durant was looking around. He was like, I know I was the person as the best player that was the lead domino for Kyrie and I to be a dynamic duo as we got together in 12-22 of 20. Then a month later, they took it a step further. James Harden forced his way out of Houston, quit on Houston, came in camp out of shape, quit on Houston to go to the Nets. Then we had what everybody deemed was going to be the greatest big three since Miami did it with Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, and people were already counting championships. They only played around 20 or so games together. But here's to me where it got tricky, when Kyrie didn't get vaccinated. Because what ends up happening now is it puts more pressure on KD to stay healthy. It puts more pressure on James Harden to look at KD like, wait a minute. Y'all had me force my way out of Houston, but your man ain't getting vaccinated? So then James Harden quit on the Nets. He started dogging it. Hey, Hannah, there's footage in Detroit this past year where the ball rolled into the backcourt. And James Harden let the ball roll to his feet, never bent over to pick it up. When a Piston player went and dunked the ball, and I looked at the sideline, and nobody said nothing to Harden. Not a coach, not another player. When I said that, I was like, this ain't gonna work. And then so you graduate the story more, and the Nets become the only team not to win a playoff game. See, last year, KD was so very terrific in the playoffs against the Bucks. Even though they lost, people kind of gave them a moral victory, saying if they would have had a healthy Harden, if they would have had a healthy Kyrie, they would have won. But that didn't matter because the Bucks went on to win the championship. So now all of a sudden you get into this offseason, the Nets look back at the last 3 years and they're like, you know what? We're not going to take back our organization. When we brought them to us, Kyrie said, coaching ain't really important to us. So what did they do? They didn't go hire one of the greatest coaches. They wouldn't hire Steve Nash because he could do a really good job and he was familiar and he's an all-time great player. but also that made the players comfortable. And when you watch them play against the Nets, you notice Ime Udoka can challenge Jason Tatum. He can challenge Jaylen Brown. Kyrie wasn't going to be challenged by Steve Nash. KD knows that too. So when Kyrie opts back in, KD's like, I'm out of here, period. And so the crazy thing is not he's just breaking up with the Nets. He's also breaking up with Kyrie. This is one of the most fascinating things in the history of the NBA, to see an all-time great player like KD go to the Warriors, win back-to-back finals MVPs, leave the Warriors so he can be the best player leading a championship situation with Kyrie Irving. They have to watch two of their former teams play in the finals, and then the Warriors win it without you. That has to be the final straw for KD. This is fascinating.
Masterful layout of the history of the Nets in just a few minutes. Jalen, appreciate that. And Wendy, can you add a little bit of perspective onto what Jalen said?
Yeah, I think it was not just Durant, it was also the organization. And
giving too much power to Durant and KD?
Yes, they certainly did. And, you know, remember the landscape when Durant and Kyrie went there. There was a bunch of teams that had salary caps. The Lakers were trying to get these guys. The Clippers were trying to get these guys. The Knicks were trying to get these guys. You weren't just competing, you know, to get their attention. You were competing with all these other teams. And so the deal that they made, which was not only are we going to sign you to huge contracts, we're going to give you influence, is what helped them get the deal done. But right from the very start, it was built on a sand foundation, especially knowing that Kyrie hadn't proven that he could be an effective leader. And really, Kyrie was the leader. You know, the crazy thing is that even though Durant is the better player and is in position to lead,
right,
Kyrie was kind of the lead voice. And you know, it could have worked, but it was always suspect. And when Steve Nash took that job, there were people in the league going, wow, Steve, like, it could be great, it could be awful. And they knew that going in. But they bet on the talent, and the talent let them down.
Yeah, what was so tantalizing was that talent. Even in the short stretches we saw, I mean, they were favorites to win the NBA title because they were so unstoppable in those rare times when they were on the court together.
Well, I think Jalen's point about the Celtics and Ime Udoka is really interesting because let's go back to last playoffs, right? I mean, Jalen talked about the series that Kevin had against the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's go back to look at when they played against the Boston Celtics. They destroyed the Celtics in the first round. It's the one time all three guys were really healthy. And at that point, it looked like they were going to be this super team, right? The Celtics, right after that series, they'd have Brad Stevens go up to be president of basketball operations. Danny Ainge moves on, and they hire Ime Udoka. When you look at what the Boston Celtics did this year, going to the NBA Finals, Ime Udoka coming in and having accountability up and down the roster, challenging his best players publicly, repeatedly, throughout the season. Early in the year, there were a lot of people going, man.
Day one, he was on them.
What is Ime Udoka doing? He's challenging these players. It's not going to work out.
And it took a while for it to work out.
But it came together. But it came together, and that team had a great season. And that accountability Jalen was talking about was there for the Celtics from top to bottom. And with the Nets, from day one, with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, it was about what they wanted, and it was never about what the team wanted. And I think that dynamic there, and especially when you have the Nets come back and get blown out by the Celtics this year, it's just a fascinating dichotomy in how those two teams are set up and